The quiz results today were better than they were the other day, so that's a nice step in the right direction. But there were a couple of you guys who kept your quiz grades constant. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for steps up. You know, it's really a pretty simple equation. If you get something wrong in class, and it's never bad to get something wrong on the early parts of the quizzes. But if you get something wrong and you go home and you look at the things you got wrong and you work on them and then you get back in and get better, you're in good shape. For example, there's one person in here who got a 0 the first time they took the quiz. And then that person got a 60 today. That's excellent. You got 5 wrong last time, now you only got 2 wrong. That's exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for steps in the right direction. There's other people in here who got a 40 last time, who got a 40 this time. Or got a 60 last time, who got a 60 this time. That means it's pretty obvious. You didn't work at it. We all know each other by now. I know that you're smart. If you work at something, you will understand almost everything. Not that you're going to be perfect at everything, but you're going to get pretty good. When I see you not go up, this is not rocket science. It's like saying, I'm going on a diet. You weigh 100 pounds when you start the diet. A week later, you weigh 103. What do you figure, guys?
The diet's not working.
Yeah, you didn't diet. You may have said you were dieting. The fact is you were eating poorly. Please don't tell me you're going to diet. So when you come in and you get a 40, and then you come in and you take the next quiz again and you get another 40, please don't tell me how you're working hard. Please don't tell me how your success matters to you. You get a 0 to a 60, a 40 to an 80, a 60 to an 80, 80 to 100, yes, absolutely. You're improving, you're getting better, absolutely. That's what we're looking for. Now, here's the thing. People ask all the time, what's so important about school? Why do you want to do well in school? If you say to me, like if Olivia was to look at me and say, Mr. Lindquist, I just don't see factoring in my future. I just don't think I'm going to have to factor when I get older. I have 2 responses to that. The first one is, I have no idea if you're going to or not. You probably won't, but you might. You never know. My son, who failed trigonometry in high school, the equivalent of Algebra 2 trig, the first time he took it, I let him do whatever he wanted to do. He failed the course. The second time, I said, okay, we tried it your way, you failed, now you're going to do it my way. And he got like an 83, and it's a very difficult course. He came to me and he said to me, very, very ironic, he said, Dad, I'm having a hard time saying this to you. I don't want to admit this, but I just want you to know, at the time he was working construction, he said, I use trigonometry as a construction worker. He was blown away that he actually used math as a construction worker. We don't know what careers we're going to have when we get older, but that's not the important thing about school. The important thing is this, that you recognize that there's something you're supposed to be learning, that you have a responsibility to learn these things. And when you don't get it right, you are not bad. But that you go home and you're annoyed that you got it wrong. And you say to yourself, what do I have to do to get it right? Let me learn how to do this stuff. Now, let's fast forward, and let's say for the next, you guys are about 14 or 15 now. So for the next 7 years of your life, 9th grade through, the next 8 years, 9th grade through 12th grade, and then the 4 years of college. For those 8 years, you practice, you refine, and you get better at realizing that you have a responsibility, that you have to learn how to meet that responsibility regardless of how you feel about that responsibility. And then you graduate college. And then there are other kids who, when they have something they're supposed to learn, they get it wrong and they don't improve. Who are you going to hire as an employer? Are you going to hire the person who gets things wrong and goes, oh, well, I really don't feel like doing what I have to do to get it right? Or are you going to hire the person who says, you know, they may mess up the first time, but they learn from their mistakes, and they learn to work hard, and they learn to do their best? Who are you going to hire?
The one that does his best.
Absolutely. They do's their best.
Does his best.
The ones with the best English. Now, that's the skill you're supposed to be learning at school. People think school you're supposed to learn math, you're supposed to learn science, you're supposed to learn. That's secondary. The big thing you learn is responsibility. One way or another, you are going to learn that in life. Now, if you want to be headstrong, like my oldest son, and you want to say, well, I want to do things my way, and I don't want to do things your way, it's your life. But I'm going to tell you now, the pain you are going to endure later is way worse than a little homework. It's no comparison. And if I walked my oldest son in here and I said that statement to him, he would laugh, he would look at you, and he would say, do what he says. Because he's living proof of the pain. He went through some rough times, and he looked at me and he said, Dad, I screwed up so bad. He said, you were willing to pay for the college? I didn't take it seriously. I went fishing all the time. I went partying all the time. I didn't do anything seriously. I messed it all up. And then he had this opportunity and that opportunity. He said, I messed them all up. Now he's learned. We're very proud of him. He's doing awesome. But it took him 6 years of wasted time to figure it out. And if you ask him, what would have been more painful, doing some homework or the lessons he's learned over the 6 years, he will look you right in the eye and say, do your homework. Way less painful. Not even close. And then, the big thing is that you learn this attitude that says you're going to come in and do your job. Do you think I love everything about teaching?
No.
Not a chance. I hate paperwork. I hate dealing with political situations sometimes. But I know that if I just get those things done, just get them done, don't think about them, and then I get to work as to doing the job that I think I got to do, now I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And then the success spills over. As you can tell, I talk about as well as Andre. Dues. Well, we could look at it as paying your dues. All right, so let's factor some of these. We should be getting to the point where these are pretty simple. How many people feel like that you can factor something like this very easily? If you do, today's lesson is going to be a piece of cake. You're going to look at today's lesson and go, that's it. Really, really easy. If not, the good news is you still got a little bit of time to get this down pat, okay? What's the factors of the first one? What?
1 and 7.
Well, I want you to be a little more clear about the factors. It's x plus 7, x plus 1, or the other order. But do it all the way through the binomial stage. Don't just say what numbers work, okay? What about the next one? M squared plus m minus 90. Wilfredo? M plus 10, m minus 9. Very good. It's very important. Now, this one happened to be pretty easy. It was 10 and 9, because 10 times 9 is 90. But if this number at the end gives you a hard time, remember to type into your calculator y equals 90 divided by x. And then you look at the table. Once you look at the table, a lot of the things in the table will be decimals, 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 but eventually you'll get like a whole number and a decimal, or a whole number and a whole number. Anytime you see a whole number and a whole number, those are a pair of factors, and you can try them. Okay, what about the next one? K squared minus 13k plus 40. Here?
K minus 5 and K minus 8.
Nice. K minus 5, K minus 8. All right, and now we get one that looks a little weird. Anybody think they got it?
B plus 100 and B minus 1.
Okay, interesting that you would say that. Negative 100 plus 99b plus v squared. And what did you say it was again?
B plus 100 and B
v plus 100 and v
minus 1.
minus 1. Okay. What I noticed right away, can you see how these terms are inverted, like the v is moved around? Okay, so let's say that I wanted to rearrange this. And I wanted it to go to positive v squared. I keep that positive. I keep that positive plus 99v. And I keep that negative minus 100. That would be good factors of it. The problem is they put the negative 100 first. So what I would do is I would change this ever so slightly. Negative 1 plus v and 100 plus v. This way I get the numbers in the same order they presented. Now all I did, now here's the thing. Isn't it a lot easier to factor if you put the v squared first? Right? Look at me now. I don't want you to miss this. I like what Leanne did here. I like that she factored it the normal way. But they didn't ask it the normal way. So I then just play around with my binomials a little bit. Negative 1 plus v, positive 100 plus v. And I just rewrite them so they match the format they gave me. Does that make sense? Okay, any questions? My suspicion is a question like that would be on the part 1, and there would be 4 choices, and it would be obvious to do that. That's what I think they would do. Okay, so what are we going to learn today? Well, if you look on your sheet, it talks about two things. It talks about undefined, and it talks about quadratic equations, factorable quadratic equations. Let's talk about this term undefined first. I have said to you before that my sister would tell you I need to make sense of everything, that there's just this part of me that needs to make sense of things. I think she's accurate about that. And when I was in school, I hated math until 11th grade. Hated it. 11th and 12th, I started to like it. And then in college, I really started to like it. In 12th grade, I really started to like it. College, I liked it even more. And one of the things that I really love about it is the logical consistency. Do any of you guys have a parent or a boss or somebody in your life that 1 minute they're one way and the next minute they're like another way? And like you never really know what you're dealing with when you walk home in the door or when you go see them at their house or something like that? Does anybody have anybody like that? How frustrating is that? And you don't feel safe. You know what I mean? Like you walk in the door and it's like, okay, which one's here today? And then it's like, okay, if I'm good now, is it gonna stay good? Or are we like simmering and it's gonna explode any minute now? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. My wife texted me this morning. She was all upset because yesterday Gibbs did something. You know, Ziva runs the house. And Gibbs did something he should not have done. I was getting my socks on to take them out, and apparently I wasn't going quick enough to make Gibbs happy. So he was barking at me. Now, it wasn't an I'm going to bite you bark. It was a huff, 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 huff. Well, Ziva did not appreciate that at all. So Ziva got between me and Gibbs. And Ziva was giving him the stink eye. Like, who the heck are you to bark at him? So I had to, like, get Ziva back and have her give me kisses and calm her down because she was going to go at Gibbs for daring to bark at her. Well, apparently this morning Gibbs decided to bark at Sue. And Ziva went and nailed him. And she just, oh, it was a brawl in the middle of the living room and the puppy almost got trampled and Ziva was going at it with Gibbs and Gibbs wouldn't back down. And I'm like, Gibbs just should have done what he was told. He knew what was coming. It was pretty simple. She was going to nail him. She told him shut up and he didn't shut up. So if you go home and you never know what to expect, it's very, very, very frustrating. Now, there is only one thing in math where it breaks down. Everything else is very consistent. It's very logical. It's very predictable. And that's one of the things I absolutely love about math. The one time that math breaks down is if I put a 0 in the denominator. Let's think about what division means for just a minute. All right, division, come on, light up, there we go, good. If I write 10 divided by 5, that means that if I had like 10 blocks and I put them in 5 different piles, how many blocks would go in each pile? 2. That's what 10 divided by 2 means. Well, what if I say I had 10 blocks and I put them in 0 piles? How do I do that? You can't. It doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. That's the only time that I know of that math breaks down. And we call this situation undefined. What do we call it?
Undefined.
Now, I kind of crack up because I'm about to give you the definition of undefined. I don't know if that makes you laugh, but my morbid British sense of humor, I find that hysterical. I'm going to define undefined. I think that's hysterical. But anyway, the definition of undefined, can't you see the irony in that statement? All right? The definition of undefined is whenever there's a 0 in the denominator. What does undefined mean?
Whenever there's a 0 in the denominator.
All right, so what value of x would make this 0?
1.
1. No, not 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Negative 1. Because what's negative 1 plus 1? 0. Now, one way to just do it very quickly is just to always take the denominator and write equals 0. So if I do minus 1 to both sides, I get x equals negative 1. What about the next one? What value of x would make that undefined? Okay, Molly, what do you get? 7. Let's see. Make it equal to 0. Add 7 to both sides. X equals 7. Now, I would guess more than one of you was sitting there going, Mr. Nicholas, why are you writing that out? Can't you just look at that thing and tell it's 7? Yes, I can. Obviously, there's more coming. What about this one? This one, not everybody can think about. Can do it in the top there.
Wait,
Anybody know? Andre?
-3.
No?
Wait,
Can we use the Lindquist approach, please? Equal 0. What would be the first step, everybody? -1. 3x equals -1. What would be the next step? Divide by 3. X equals -1/3. Okay? Does that make sense? Well, the question then becomes, what if I did this?
oh, wait.
What if I put a quadratic in the bottom? And that's where we're gonna take a step back. We're gonna take a step back. and We're gonna learn how to solve a quadratic equation, and then we'll come forward and we'll answer a question like that. So that's the first thing. What does undefined mean again, everybody? When the denominator is 0. The easiest way to solve it is just write equal 0 and solve. Now we're gonna solve a quadratic equation. And what I want you to notice, I'll cover this piece up right here. It's just a trinomial like we've been doing the last few days. And I include equal 0. Quadratic equations are a trinomial equal 0. And then we have to go about solving it. Now I'm going to show you how to solve the first one, and then you are going to show me how to solve the other ones. So if I take a look at this one, the thing is, and I know this is really weird, you know how like, if I was solving an old time equation like this, I would add 1 to both sides, and basically I want to get everything away from the x. You with me on that? Quadratic equations is exactly the opposite. You want to get everything on the side of the x, and you want to write it as a trinomial. By the way, we say quadratic equations because the leading term is squared. That's what quadratic is. Now, just factor. I get x minus 4 times x minus 1. God bless you. Remember before I said if you're really good at factoring, today's lesson is going to be really easy? Okay? So if you look at that and you know, oh man, that's x minus 4 times x plus 1. Now, you're in great shape. Let's say I grab a number with this hand and a number with this hand, and I put the numbers behind my back. And I tell you, the only hint I'm going to give you about these numbers, Lily, is if you multiply these two numbers, you get 0. What can you tell me about the numbers in my hands? What's that? They can't be anything. They have to be something. Go ahead.
One of them has to be 0.
Or both. One or both must be 0. Is there any other way, through multiplication, to create 0 other than to multiply by 0?
No.
No. 0 times 7 is 0, but 3 times 7 is not. Anything times 0 is 0. And if they're both 0, what's 0 times 0? 0. So they can both be 0 or either one of them. So what I'm going to do is, this is like the number in one hand. This binomial would be the number in my left hand. This binomial would be the number in the right hand. Do you know which one of those numbers is 0? No, it could be either one. So maybe it's the guy on the left, maybe it's the guy on the right. And then I just solve the two equations. X equals 4, x equals -1. Hold on. Simple as that. Okay? So what you do is you get everything equal to 0, you factor it, you put one factor equals 0, you get the other factor equals 0, that's like the left hand and the right hand. Then you solve each of the equations that you're left with, just like solving for that undefined before. Try the next one. Give it a shot. Okay, how do I factor c squared minus 49? Oh, you should notice this difference of two perfect squares. We talked about this the other day. These were very easy to factor. It's as if it says plus 0c in the middle. Who remembers? These are the super easy ones. C plus 7, c minus 7 equals 0. You are so ready for marriage. You got the whole thing. I told you, I said.
I had that, and he was like, it cannot be that, that's definitely
It is,
wrong.
because this is plus 7 c's and minus 7 c's, which add up to 0 c's.
But that,
Basically, there's
Difference of two perfect squares. I can square root both of those things. Now, maybe it's the guy on the left. Maybe it's the guy on the right. Minus 7, C equals 7, plus 7, plus 7, C equals 7. Okay? Now the next one you can't do because it says 2n squared minus 49, but I'm going to change it slightly. Ready? We're going to make it 4n squared minus 49. Now you can do it.
Wait, what?
That makes a big difference because you can find the square root of 4, but you couldn't find the square root of 2. So now you can do it. Okay, anybody want to factor it for me? What do we get here? I see a number of people are still writing, but I'm a little pressed for time. Talk to me here. James, what do we get?
N squared minus 98.
No.
No.
Square root both sides, guys. Difference of two perfect squares. What's the square root of 4n squared? 2n. And what's the square root of 49?
7.
So it's minus 7 and plus 7 equals 0. Maybe it's the guy on the left. Maybe it's the guy on the right. Add 7 to both sides. 2n equals 7. Divide by 2. N is 7 over 2. On this side, 2n is negative 7. Divide by 2. Negative 7 over 2. Okay. Now I want you to skip the next one underneath there and then look at the n squared minus 3n equals 10. What do you notice about that guy?
Oh. They didn't like.
But there is another.
What?
It's not equaling 0.
That's right. It's not equaling 0. So you need to make it equal 0. So your first step, and this is very different. It's different than a linear equation. Your first step is to subtract 10 from both sides and get n squared minus 3n minus 10 equals 0. Now it looks like a standard trinomial, and now I think you can do it. Go ahead, do it. Factor. N works out to be 5 and negative 2. Right? Okay, folks. Hasta la vista. Bye, con Dios. Toodaloo.